In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. I hope this video finds you well and very safe and healthy, you and your family and loved ones. There's no doubt that that church is very, very different in the last couple of weeks, and certainly for a few more weeks to come. Even with the regulations permitting like small masses with limited people, etc. It's just not the same without all our beloved and lovely congregation whom we love very, very much and miss very, very much. I was recently praying a mass with one of the fathers, and he was at the part in the mass. I was helping as the deacon in the altar, and when I was at the part in the mass where he was saying, your people, and the church, and cry to you saying, have mercy. And so I was looking back, and I could see Abuna praying, and behind him empty pews. Very, very sad, sorrowful kind of sight. But we are very hopeful that this will pass, and this is just a phase that God is allowing and permitting to happen for our benefit, for our edification, for the betterment of everyone. No doubt we have a lot of faith that the Lord does everything good for those who love him. So I was asked to give some practical tips or practical ideas about how to spend this Pascha week for 2020. There's no doubt that this Holy Pascha week is going to be very, very different, very, very different Pascha from any Pascha we've ever experienced in our lives, and very likely for any Paschas we ever experience in the future. I really love, when Jonathan recently sent a note on the emails, a message to the congregation about how the very first Pascha that ever happened with the Lord himself 2,000 years ago was very different Passover that the Jews around the time experienced, where he himself suffered and kind of offered himself as the lamb, and that was for the betterment of the church. Without it, the church wouldn't have been able to start, and we wouldn't be where we are now 2,000 years later. And equally, in God's wisdom, he's decided that this year will be a very different Pascha for us as well, and we have complete faith and complete confidence that this too will be for our betterment, and in God's wisdom will be for the betterment of the church. And we'll be remembering these times, who knows how many centuries and decades later, about how much we've all grown and learned from this. So given the restrictions, and obviously we can't come to church as we would normally like, it's really beautiful that every year we come to church to attend Pascha. This year it's almost like we now need to kind of prepare our homes so that God can come to our home, and we can still celebrate that same Pascha and still celebrate that same blessing. And so I think certainly with all the technology and advances that we have at the moment, one of the fathers recently was saying that if COVID had happened 50 or 60 years ago, technology wouldn't have been as advanced for us to be able to still be able to participate using live streaming and all the wonderful technology that we have and use to our advantage today. So thank God that we have the technology to help and support this service. And as you know, we at St. Mark's and certainly many churches around the world are live streaming a lot of the services, and thank God that the government allowed us to be able to do that, which we're always following and abiding by all the restrictions and guidelines that are being given. But I think with the early, and so there's already a timetable that's been distributed amongst the church emails. If you don't have that, please contact one of the fathers or one of the servants ASAP, so that you know exactly what times the services, the morning, the evening Paschas will be. And I think, if anything, we should think of this year as an exciting year, a year that is very, very joyful, a Pascha that we can really benefit from in ways that we normally wouldn't. What do I mean by that? For example, sometimes if, for people who have work, or even people who have taken time off work, generally in past years, sometimes they might have family or kids that they have to take to school or whatever, and these things stop them from being able to participate and actively attend every Pascha service. This year, school is out. There's school holidays, and even if school does come about or whatever, they're all homeschooled now anyway for the majority of people. And so this allows us the comfort of our home to be able to get up early, and instead of looking half decent, getting ready, brushing our teeth, doing all that, God doesn't care about any of that. We can actually just be at home, and as soon as we get up, we can kneel in front of our screen or whatever it may be and log on remotely to the live streaming and be able to benefit from the morning Pascha, be able to benefit from the streaming services in the morning, in the evening, through the liturgies and everything else, all the services that we are celebrating throughout this Holy Pascha week. And so this way I can actually attend almost every single service, potentially. It's up to me. And there's very little in terms of restrictions or hindrances to stop me from doing that. The other thing as well is that, please, when we are participating, let's do just that. Let's not turn live streaming into something that we would be watching like a YouTube video or a movie or a cartoon. It's not a spectator sport. So let's try to be, turn our home, into a church. So in the same way I'd be dressed for church, I should be dressed at home. In the same way I would, be prostrated in certain times. Say when Abuna does the litanies at the end of the Pascha, and we say, Lord have mercy, we prostrate as we would at church. In the same way I would potentially wear my tonya if say it's the Thursday Mass or Palm Sunday, or even Resurrection Mass as well. I wear my tonya as well. And I do it in an area in my house which is my prayer area. It could be a prayer corner, could be a prayer room, even if it's a prayer mat. Whatever it is that you have at home, whatever that you've sorted out at your place, have a designated area in my house that is for prayer. That is where I encounter the Lord, where I meet the Lord. It could be me on my own, it could be me with my family, with my wife, with my children, with my husband, whoever it is that you have with you, that you live with. And as a family, this is where we encounter the Lord, and this is where we participate. So when there's parts that there is a deacon part, or say there is a congregation part, if I'm a deacon, I respond as a deacon. If I'm a congregation member, I respond as a congregation member. The other thing is, so really we're not walking through a museum going, oh, look, what a lovely, oh, we're up to the Agios Orthios now, oh, we're up to the Thok Titigom. No, I actively participate. So I'm not just watching and observing, I am engaged fully, intentionally, with the purpose that I want to come closer to you, Lord. I want to see you, Lord, and I want to encounter you in my home. I want my home to be a church, Lord. And so throughout this week, let me, number one, log in and participate as much as I possibly can in as many of the services that I possibly can, more so than what I've ever done before, because now I have the means to. There's very little in terms of hindrances. And as much as possible, I'm not spectating, I'm actively being involved, engaging, standing up, kneeling, doing all those things and responding. For the deacons out there, just as an aside, if I've ever been a deacon and have been embarrassed or worried or concerned about, the long tunes or the long psalm, I won't be able to do it or whatever, no one at church is going to hear you today, mate. So really, if you can, please try your best. In fact, sing to the, as loud as you possibly can. No one's going to hear you around anyway. It's no one to be embarrassed from. And the Lord will love, your voice and your tunes and everything. So this is a really good opportunity for you to practice. A really good opportunity for you to really feel the presence of Pascha this week. If you are working, if you still have work or anything like that, then do your best, of course. Work around what you can do, what you can't do, and try as much as possible to make everything that you do this week to be directed at the Lord, as much as possible. If I am working and I'm forced to be working, whether from home or I'm a healthcare worker or whatever industry I'm in, then I try everything I can to keep thinking about the Lord. I try to minimize, needless idle chatter, gossiping, talking about things unrelated. If I'm concerned about, this whole updating with the world and COVID and all that, I promise you, the way things are at the moment in New South Wales, at least, there's not going to be too much in the ways of changes or restrictions between now and next week. COVID will still be here next week, and the restrictions, they're pretty high as they are anyway. I can't imagine there'll be significantly more in this next week, and if they are, I'm sure you'll hear about it. There's no need to be constantly updating every single day, every single hour to see how many new people or new cases or anything like that. I think that's a big distraction from Passion Week and from the benefits of that. So I don't worry, and I leave everything in God's hands. And you'll find that it's a promise from God. When the problems in this world are big in your eyes, then God becomes very small. But the promise from God is that if God becomes very big in your eyes and you focus on Him and dwell on Him, then all these other problems in the world will be very, very small. And that will give us some peace as much as possible. Also, if I have the opportunity to, if I haven't yet already, or if I feel that Lent has already has passed me by very quickly, then I speak to my confession father. I can still confess. The fathers are more than happy to speak to you, whether it's on the phone, whether through messages or otherwise, or FaceTime, whatever it may be. And as much as possible, this is also another opportunity this year, because we do have so much more time at home, hopefully. What it means is that maybe there's services that I couldn't go to before, and in the past when I'd have to go to work or be preoccupied with kids or whatever it was, I might only have been able to attend one Pascha at night, for example. I know a lot of the families out there, the parents with young children, would have to alternate. The whole family couldn't go, not because of COVID or anything, but because the kids just wouldn't be able to to deal with the whole night. So one parent would go while the other has the kids at home, and then they'd swap, and vice versa. Whereas now, both parents at home looking after the kids and bedtime and everything else, and both parents can actually still log on and enjoy and watch all the live streaming. So maybe we can attend more things, but also throughout the day, instead of just benefiting from the Pascha services that I would be able to attend to, because I can attend the majority of them, I at least have more time now to even read the morning and the nighttime or evening readings as well, which will help me then really feel and taste Pascha a lot more. With my Bible, I can read a lot more chapters. People are messaging Abuna saying, Abuna, I've read 17 chapters today of the Bible. Not because, and even this young man was saying, not because I'm holy, Abuna, but I'm bored and I've got a lot of time on my hands, and so I've been able to now read a lot more chapters, which is a really beautiful thing, really, really beautiful, that we can use this time in a way where we're not distracted by social media, not distracted by Facebook, by Snapchat, by Instagram, or anything like Twitter, whatever it may be. So social media, if we can put that completely on hold, again, I promise it will still be there a week from now. But let's because this is such a rare opportunity, because this is such a rare thing in our lives to have a year where Pascha is at home in this way, let's take advantage of that. Let's use it to our advantage. Let's not waste this time. Everyone has been gifted with the gift of time this year. The gift of time, and I don't think it's a coincidence. We don't believe in Orthodoxy that anything is a coincidence. And so for the Lord to allow this pandemic in this way to happen at this time, during Lent, during Holy Week, I think He's really allowing us all to just take a break from all the distractions of the world, take a break from work, take a break from everything else that's going on, and so that we can have a quiet, deep, and meaningful Holy Week with the Lord. Let this week be a week of encounter, a week where I say to the Lord, Lord, I want to feel your presence in my life this week more than any other time in my life. And I want to learn from this time, because this will pass. And we'll be talking about these stories in this year to our kids, our grandkids, many years from now. Let's not waste the opportunity. Let's come out of this whole experience, at the very least, learning how to encounter the Lord in our homes, not just within the confines of the church, not just within the confines of the liturgical sacraments and the church sacraments, but also in our home. And I think this is very important for every one of us. And I think this could be one of the reasons the Lord wants or has allowed this to happen, so that we can all benefit and learn from, not only benefiting from the church, of course, which is the most beautiful and amazing treasure that we have, generally, but to learn how to speak to God and to be close to Him even when there is no church, and to create a church at home. The church will go on, whether in the buildings of the church that we know as it is today, or in the confines of your own home. So may the Lord really help us be more joyful in this Holy Week. Another practical tip as well is to try to be a bit more ascetic if I have the opportunity to, obviously with the guidance of your confession, Father. So practicing asceticism, waking up, doing some matanias, maybe in terms of food, maybe having some period of abstinence, depending on your medical situation and health. But of course, speak to your confession, Father, and under His guidance, see how you go this week. But we pray that you all have a wonderful week, a blessed and holy Paschal week. Remember that this is a joyful time. We say in Orthodoxy that we celebrate the Holy Paschal week. Why? Because the whole reason why we do all of this is because the Lord, at the end of this week, resurrected from the dead for you and for me, for our salvation, so that we can be with Him for eternity. And glory be to God forevermore. Amen.